Greetings, survivors and friends, SHADOWFRAX here, and it's coming up to that time of year again, which, if you know the drill, means that all sorts of festive tat gets wheeled out, and you've got more of it this year than ever. But first, some important adjustments that are particularly relevant in light of last week's big building changes, and yes, it seems that not everyone got the memo about the upkeep. Either that, or they were taking open plan to the next level. First of all, building tiers have had their protection values adjusted quite significantly, and this is how they now look. Metal has twice the strength of stone with 1000 HP, and armoured has twice the protection as metal, with a whopping 2000. The only difference in cost being that the metal tier is 200 frags per upgrade now, instead of 150. This means either 8 C4 or 15 rockets to get through a layer of armoured now, and along with the significantly cheaper cost, I suppose we'll just have to see how this works out. Those of you with keen eyeballs will also notice something else that's changed. Can you see what it is? Yes, indeed, the peepholes in the wood and metal tiers have been filled out and hammered flat. This used to be a feature that worked both ways, allowing a certain amount of peeping both into and out of your base, but could enable others to scope out your loot rooms. However, the biggest reason for doing this is to help with performance. You know, that thing that you want more than anything else? And with the upcoming changes to world culling, it would be jolly handy not to have to render all the stuff that's visible through the little gaps and cracks in your base's walls. Tool cupboards now have more slots, as that was a complaint last week from those of you with grand designs, and there are a lot more changes on the way apparently. A word of warning from Helk though, don't use the cupboard to store anything other than building materials. For instance, you can stick gunpowder and explosives in them at the moment, but when a hotfix for this arrives, those resources will just get deleted. Some sneaky people were using doors, wall and ceiling frame inserts to build bases with much lower upkeep costs, so for those of you who were enjoying that, I'm very sorry, but now these building parts also require a certain amount of upkeep. However, you can rejoice because any deployables such as high external walls and gates, for instance, that are placed within a building privilege radius will be protected from decay now. They don't add to the upkeep costs either, I'm pleased to say. One thing that's still needed here is some way to visualize exactly how far your privilege extends, but in the meantime, you'll just have to rely on the on-screen prompt. There were a couple of other tweaks to decay behind the scenes that you should know about, and these were that foundations will now decay at the same rate as any other blocks when their upkeep isn't paid, and that building parts inside a base will now decay at only 10% of their normal rate. Server owners are also able to adjust this value with the Convar upkeep inside decay scale, which by default is set to 0.1. There were also a number of other Convars added for server owners, which can be used to change the upkeep period to something other than 24 hours, and to add a delay to decay when upkeep runs out. A grace period, if you like, and instead of spelling them all out here on the screen, I'll stick them in the description for you. Oh, it's also possible to repair barricades now, if you really want to do that, and a long-running issue that allowed you to scam vending machines by using broken items to pay for stuff was finally fixed. Game was literally unplayable. I mentioned festive content at the outset, and there will be a lot of familiar stuff here to those of you who've been playing for any amount of time. Every now and then you'll hear the sound of bells, which will signal that a couple of gifts have been dropped in your vicinity. These can be bashed open for goodies, including weapons, resources, sweets, or even coal if you've been evil, which is probably what most of you are going to get. There's a new reindeer hat, but please don't ask me to demonstrate, I do have some dignity left, and a candy cane club, which is not only a weapon, but can be licked. Yes, licked, and eventually consumed, which I suppose does enable you to put people out of their misery and then eat the evidence. As well as this, you can craft a tree, which is a default blueprint. It starts out bare, and you can decorate it if you want with stuff you find, and there are a number of other purely cosmetic items which can be purchased on the store, including a snowman and lights, presumably powered by low grade. They're also useful at other times of the year, of course, such as when you want to build a pub, tiki bar, or disco, and I think it would be nice if we could get them to flash. One other item that was added and that won't look out of place at any time is a new fireplace deployable, which is a common drop and will spawn as a blueprint. It can also be researched for 20 scrap. At the moment, it's just a big-ass campfire, but with 75% comfort and a larger range, and in future, it may be tweaked to heat the entire house. Oh, and please note, it must be placed against a wall. And something something else that was going to make it in this week but didn't was the snowball, so expect it next week maybe. Furnaces are now skinnable. It wasn't straightforward getting this done, but the team made it possible and there are now 3 on the store to get you started. In other changes, a lot more open and closed sounds have been added for deployables, and further to feedback, these will only play for the person doing the opening and closing and not the world in general. And animal behaviour became much more predictable and consistent with this update. Our furry friends will flee if injured to a certain degree, or if they hear something which puts the willies up them, such as footsteps within range. They also have different cones of vision, meaning that you may be able to sneak up behind some of them, and the hostile ones have both an aggro and de-aggro range. In addition, if they're hungry, they'll go up to food and plants and have a munch. All in all, animal behaviour should be more predictable and sensible, but most importantly, it has an overall lighter effect on server performance. Yes! I've been in a bit of a rush this week as it's a very busy time of year for me, but I hope you found this week's update useful. If you did, please leave a like and sub to the channel. Come and visit my stables on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook and the Steam group, and I shall catch you all soon. But in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.